they know what they're doing. And they know, not that they're going to get it right. That's not what we're saying. But they know X amount of people are on fixed rate mortgages, X amount are on variables, X amount have their houses paid off. We are going to create this amount of stress. This is about the max amount of stress that we can put on the system without breaking everything, including the banking system. Keep in mind, the banks own all the houses. So if I default on my mortgage, okay, well, I declare bankruptcy, I can't make my payments. The bank now owns the house. They're on the hook for the $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 net.
Well, and then they have to get into the real estate business, which banks don't want to do.
What's up, everybody? Scott Asante here, back on another episode of Leverage with my co-host Pritish Raval. Monster episode today, Pritish. We just had the Bank of Canada rate hike announcement. A big pause. I think we kind of all saw it coming. We're going to touch on that. We are going to touch on what's happening in Windsor's market specifically. We're going to hit on why the market isn't crashing like a lot of people have predicted. BC has some major new upzoning laws that we are going to touch on as well. And possibly seeing some open offers, some open auction bidding here in Ontario, which could be pretty interesting. We're going to hit on a ton of stuff today. But before we get into that, Pritish, I know you just got back from what seems like yet another vacation.
I did.
What's going on? Where are you coming back from?
I did. I went, my family and I, we went to Mexico a couple of weeks ago. We were gone. I know you had just been to, it was Orlando, right?
Yeah.
And so I wanted to get my tanning game up as well. So
it worked.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to make sure that I was getting caught up or getting past you again. So I went and got my tan on. And then
nice.
And then now back. We did the Easter egg hunt on the weekend. You guys had hosted one, so that was a lot of fun with the kids.
Monster event.
Yeah.
I don't know, 200-300 kids there.
It was awesome.
Easter Bunny face painting. They had a blast.
Yeah.
You had a blast too. I saw your kids had the face painted, so that was great.
Yeah, it was really good. You know, when we were leaving, my son had his face painted like a tiger, and you were like, don't bite me, tiger. And then that gave him the idea to start biting people. After we left, he started biting.
See, I don't have kids, so I don't know that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, he wasn't doing it until you suggested it.
Yeah,
so thanks for that.
Put it in his mind. Yeah.
That was nice.
Maybe I did it intentionally. Who knows? Yeah, so weather's picking up. Things are getting nice. Spring market is here. What are we seeing out there? Obviously, the spring usually brings a lot more activity with the weather nice, kids out of school, all that stuff. Let's jump into just kind of we'll get into a little bit of statistics here and then also what we're seeing in the market. Starting with the stats, Windsor's real estate market is up 19% since January 1st. We bottomed out in December. Our average sale price hit $568,000. That's a $94,000 increase in about 3 months.
Wow.
This, folks, is the problem with trying to time the market. It can move so fast, so quickly, so furiously with no warning that it makes timing it almost impossible. Now, a lot of people are sitting on the sidelines still. They've been on the sidelines since rate hike started. They are waiting for this massive crash. They're waiting for people to start losing their keys. Why isn't that happening? What are we seeing out there? What can we anticipate moving forward on the fundamental side here?
Yeah, so a couple things, right? Like, first of all, like you said, $94,000, so pretty much $100,000 increase in 3 months. Pretty big. So you could have bought a property for, let's say, $400,000 in January. 3 months later, it's up pretty much by $100,000. Average price, I know it doesn't exactly work that way, but I'm just doing some simple math. So, and as far as warnings go, I feel like we kind of had given some warnings of this on our podcast, right? So for those avid listeners would know, we kind of were saying, hey, now's the time. The market's going to pick up. If the rates even hold, which is kind of what's happened, it could still pick up momentum, especially in the spring summer market, right?
I specifically remember talking about the positives of the market. We had like 10 positives of Windsor's market specifically, and then we said, well, what's the negative? Interest rates, right? So it was like 10-1. All the fundamentals are pointing towards a solid market and rising prices just based on supply and demand. We had this one overhanging negative factor that was an unknown variable at the time and still is, which is interest rates. And obviously there's a negative correlation with prices and interest rates. Rates go up, prices come down. That's just the way it is. But we did say when rates come into balance, fundamentals take over. And the fundamentals are heavily skewed in favor of the demand side relative to the supply side. And that's what we're seeing play out now. So here's what's happening, in my opinion. Now that we have clarity on interest rates, at least for now, right? Two back-to-back quarters of no rate hikes in Canada.
Correct.
Back-to-back quarters of them telling us that inflation's on target to come down to
exactly.
3% range by this summer, 2023.
Yep. End of this year.
I'm not saying I believe that, but that's what they're telling us. Now that you put that news out there, what impact does that have on consumer sentiment? First-time buyers, people that have been struggling to get into the market for possibly years. What does that tell? What signal is that sending to the market?
Yeah, they're ready to go.
And why? Right.
Right. They're ready to go.
Because they know that their window of opportunity might be limited. It might be limited.
Yeah.
It might be.
Like right now, what you were saying, right? Rates have paused back-to-back quarters, right? The one biggest thing that has not been addressed, and we're going to continue to face this, is the supply, right? We talked about it before. There's just not enough supply. And when I'm talking to clients, right, going back to what's been going on in the market, when I speak with clients, they feel like they have to get in now. They can see the window closing. They told me, they're like, hey, you know what? Houses are selling for more again. They're actually going for more than I was hoping for. I look at the listing, and 3 to 6 months ago, I was able to get it around the list price, but now things are going over list price again. So consumers are seeing that window close. And
I want to hit on one point. We're not advocating like a FOMO mentality and like rush to do something crazy. We're not trying to like stir up confusion and get be salesy. What we're doing is reporting what's actually happening.
Yeah, this is just what's happening. Yeah,
6 to 8 months ago, our tone was very different. It was, hey, you can get in there. Now's the time to be. You can look. You can put your conditions in. You might be the only offer on a property. It's a very interesting time. Prices are down 20% or more. It's an interesting time to be out there. Now the sentiment has changed. And while we were saying that, by the way, folks, we were saying, hey, once interest rates come into balance, once that fear is taken out of the market, there's still not enough houses. And the fundamentals are still going to come into play. So we were warning people about this. The problem is we don't know when that's going to happen.
Or how quickly, right? It changes.
We can't time that because they could come out tomorrow and raise rates again. We don't know. But right now that we have a little bit of clarity, at least for the time being, this is what's happening in the market. You have a flood of people entering the market, not enough listings, which brings us to our next point. A lot of the talk has been, if you pay attention to any social media, Twitter, for instance, or whatever, a lot of people have been calling for a massive housing bubble, massive housing crash all across Canada, people losing their keys, people over out leverage, they can't make their mortgage payments, banks are repossessing houses, you're going to be able to come in and buy at these crazy discounts. Why are people not losing their houses? Why are we not seeing mass fire sales across the country? Monthly payments went up astronomically if you're on a variable rate. Why is this not factored into
that's a good point. So what we have the stress test to keep in mind, right? So a lot of clients that got the fixed mortgage interest rates a few years ago, they've yet to feel the rate increase, right? So you're not seeing that. Some banks' variable products are structured differently than others. So some of them have not increased their payments either. Currently, we're already trending to hit a rate reduction before potentially the end of this year, right? Bank of Canada might actually come out and reduce their interest rate by 0.25%. And the forecast is that it could go down by another 1 to 1.5% by the end of 2024, meaning all the clients that were in fixed products, when they do mature, they're going to mature at a lower interest rate than what the current interest rates are. So they may actually not feel the blow as bad, right? And the stress test was created specifically for these types of situations, right? So
I think that's a great point because I think a lot of people, they take a little bit of the subjective out of it, right? Obviously, the Bank of Canada raised rates fast and furious, record pace, put a lot of stress into the system. That was intentional.
Yeah.
But like my whole time, and we've been kind of saying, like, they know what they're doing. Yeah. And they know, not that they're going to get it right. That's not what we're saying. But they know X amount of people are on fixed rate mortgages, X amount are on variables, X amount have their houses paid off. We are going to create this amount of stress. This is about the max amount of stress that we can put on the system without breaking everything,
correct,
including the banking system. Keep in mind, the banks own all the houses. So if I default on my mortgage, okay, well, I declare bankruptcy, I can't make my payments. The bank now owns the house. They're on the hook for the $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 net.
Well, and
negative
then and
equity
then and then
position,
they have to
not me.
get into the real estate business, which banks don't want to do.
They'd be fire sailing at heavy discounts, and then that's just not good business. And the banks are the backbone of the Canadian economy, most economies really. The banks start failing, the whole country's in big trouble. So my point is, right, again, not to say that they're going to get it right, not to say that this is not going to happen or whatever. It's just unlikely that the Bank of Canada is going to keep pushing until the whole system breaks, because that's just not good for business. It's not good for re-election. They're going to come up to like kind of the max pain threshold, in my opinion, which maybe we've reached, right?
Yeah.
You put a little bit more stress on people and things start breaking. It's just not, it's not a good situation. So we might be at peak rates. And the Bank of Canada is stuck between a rock and a hard place. The rock is keep raising rates, break the system, or pause rates, possibly even reduce them, and risk
overstimulating the economy
Exactly.
again, right? I think,
can't win.
I think
They
if they
can't
had
win.
to pick, though, they'd probably pick increasing the rates. If they had to pick out of the two, they might pick that. But I think I think the worst is maybe behind us when it comes to the interest rates. And it's definitely going to be an interesting summer. And if all the forecasts are correct, we'll know before the end of the year kind of what's happening with the interest rates. But overall, like you were saying, this is not the FOMO effect. We're not saying get out there and buy now. But again, a lot of good points that would allow you to get in with the fundamentals right now.
And regardless of what's happening in the market at any 6 or 12 month interval, I'm always going to focus on the long-term fundamentals.
Yeah.
I'm always going to focus on supply and demand ultimately, right? In a 6 or 12 month window, the economy might change. We may or may not enter into recession. They may or may not raise rates or lower rates. You can't really control that. But long-term, we don't have enough houses, and we have a lot of people coming into the country. Statistically speaking, 2023, the start of the year, 2,000 people a day.
Wow. So wait,
Like
2,000 people
coming into the country.
since
immigration.
January per day.
2023.
Wow.
I think if I'm not mistaken, I hear different numbers all the time, but I believe I read today that they're targeting 1 to 1.3 million people for 2023, newcomers again into the country after topping a million last year as well. This doesn't make any sense to me from a housing perspective. Obviously, we're massively short. This is another reason, folks, that we're seeing 10 offers on every property. This is another reason why real estate has kind of a built-in floor in the country, and that's another reason why we're not seeing like mass.
So let me ask you, those offers you were mentioning. So I'm hearing that too, right? There's multiple offers on properties. Now, like recently, somebody was telling me there were multiple offers on a property even over 800,000.
Yes, it's happening in all price ranges.
Okay.
Low, medium, and high. Not every house, of course.
Yes,
right?
yes,
Some properties are overlisted. And yes, we are under listing properties to get multiple offers. So we're not sitting here saying, oh, everything's going over. Well, if you list something at 200 and it's worth 450, of course it's going to go over.
Right.
But what I am saying is that once again, prices are going above the comparable sales. So if I list something at 299, I expect it to sell for 350. Well, it's selling for 385.
Gotcha.
And
Then this
if
is kind of what was happening before.
Right. If I list something at 699, expect it to sell for 800, it sells for 825.
Yeah.
So the comparable sales are being trumped again, and the market is on the upswing, which is why we saw a 19% increase since January 1st to now, which is just pretty crazy.
Yeah. And then you have 1.3 million, 1.3 million people coming to Canada this year. I think the last time I had looked at the stat, then this is a few months ago, we needed to build 150,000 homes per year, but we only in Ontario, correct? But we only had the capacity to do 70,000 a year.
Yeah.
So still a big elephant in the room here. Very interesting to see what's going to be happening in the next little bit.
Now, I will say this: for the first time, I can honestly say that most levels of government are attempting to tackle the housing crisis and put more units out there.
Yes.
But here's the caveat. They're not going to be like the single-family detached homes or the non-rental units, right? Things for resale. Number one, they're not going to be affordable. And number two, most of the stuff that is going to be built is going to be rental units.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what the BC government is focusing on right now. They're working on upzoning all residential neighborhoods.
Okay.
So imagine you're A-plus neighborhood, all single-family homes.
Right.
You find a vacant lot in this $2 million neighborhood. Well, guess what? You go in, you buy a 60-foot lot, and you put up a 4, 6, or 8-plex.
Really?
Or 2 semi-detached or 3 row houses.
So just across the board, they're gonna do this. You can buy the lot and build a multi-unit on it.
Exactly. Now, 2 points here. Number one, those are going to be rental units, right?
Yeah.
Those are like a developer is going to go buy those
Right.
and build 2 units and rent them. And number two, the land value is going to go up, right? So then the land value goes up, then those resale units value goes up, right? Well, now I can't build this property, even if it's a 4-plex. I need to charge X amount of rent to make the project viable. So once again, everything that the levels of government does ultimately ends up backfiring against them, because the free market doesn't care what the government thinks or wants. They can only operate on market fundamentals, which is I can build for X amount. I need to charge X amount to make a profit and make it worth my risk level to put out millions of dollars. I need to have X amount of margin, or I'm just not going to do it. So I can see a path here where there's going to be a lot of units built. Finally, I didn't even think this was possible, but they won't be resale units. They won't be single family detached homes that somebody can come in and buy for $500,000 or $600,000, right? That first time home buyer market, that person that's looking to get in the market or maybe trade up or trade down a little bit. That's not, the missing middle is going to be missing forever.
Right.
It's going to be filled with rental units.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy, because if you think about it, you could be, if I'm understanding this correctly, you could be living in your neighborhood. You built a single family home, and then the lot next to you or the lot next to that one, somebody could build a duplex or triplex or 4-plex.
Semi-detached, yeah. They're getting rid of essentially zoning.
Wow.
And they've also included something in there where it's like, if it meets the criteria of that particular zoning or neighborhood or building requirements, whatever, nobody can challenge it, and the municipality must approve it. Okay, so prior to this, if you tried to do that in one of these high-end neighborhoods, you'd have the NIMBYs out, not in my backyard, and they would go to their counselors and say, hey, we're not having this in our, and then the counselor would cave and say, yeah, we're not doing this, whatever, and they would squash it. They're actually putting into the legislation that you can't appeal it.
Wow.
So, I'm sitting here saying, well, the average person is not going to win here. The developers are going to win. The investors are going to win. They're going to own a bunch of rental units. They're going to take advantage of the zoning. The land value is going to increase. The rents are going to continue to go up because the building costs are going to be high, because the land costs are going to be high. Like, you just can't win, right? So it's very interesting dynamics here. And the government's speaking out of two sides of their mouth. On one hand, they're calling a housing crisis. They're calling for all these fixes. At the same time, they're welcoming 2,000 people a day. We're not going to be able to catch up, folks. Yeah. Now, in the meantime, again, this isn't FOMO. This is fundamentals here. Actually, we got a good clip from where we were talking. I think it was in January. We were talking about this, and this was like closer to where things weren't very busy. The market was still on a downtrend, still a seller's market. And what we were telling people at that time is focus on the fundamentals. We don't really know where rates are going over the next 6 to 12 months. But what we do know is that the fundamentals here are heavily skewed for Canadian real estate.
Check it out. Go ahead and I'll play the clip. I just found it here. Let's see how this works.
There are so many positive factors affecting Ontario real estate in general, and specifically Windsor. On the positive side, we've got the battery plant, the Gordie Howe Bridge, low supply, pause in new construction building as projects are getting delayed. Immigration, people moving here from Toronto because we're the cheapest city in Ontario. The negative side is,
so we talked interest rates was the only negative side we had, right?
And now that that's been cleared up, we're seeing the fundamentals play out.
Yeah, because now people know that there are no rate increases coming. Increases.
You got it.
That's a good one, eh? And so beyond that, like I mentioned before, you are actually seeing a decrease in the fixed rates. So that gives you a lot more confidence. And as we had mentioned before, it was one of the episodes as well, was that, that fixed, when consumer behavior goes towards fixed rate, it gives you more stability in the market. It gives you a little bit more balance, because clients are not experiencing the rate increase volatility anymore. And that's exactly what's happening. A lot of people are converted to fixed rates, and new clients are going with fixed rates, whether it's 2 or 3 years. So they're not going to experience some of that volatility that we're expecting.
And I read somewhere statistically, it's like 35% of Canadians own their home outright, 35 or something percent are on fixed rates. Really, only 20 to 30% of Canadian homeowners are even exposed to rising rates. And then you'd have to say, well, what percentage of those people are at the brink of failure. And then, like you said as well, those people that are in trouble, the bank's working with them.
Yeah.
The bank doesn't want the house. They're just allowing extended amortizations, interest-only payments. They're not rushing to force the homeowner into a fire sale. And that's why we're not seeing this massive market crash as some people predicted.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing out there, like anecdotally? Myself, we're seeing 70 people at open houses. We're seeing 10 plus offers on almost every property that's properly priced, 30, 40 showings booked on every property. That's what we're seeing on the real estate side. What are you seeing on the mortgage side? Are you seeing an uptick in activity there anecdotally?
Yeah, so same thing. I'm getting a lot more clients coming in to want to get pre-approved, right? They want to be able to make firm offers. They want to stay away from putting conditions now, right? Because as you mentioned, when you're in a multiple offer situation, obviously having any sort of conditions doesn't necessarily
right now
help.
You're pretty much done if you're
trying. There you go. So getting a lot more activity with that, which tells me that we're kind of similar scenarios as what we were a year or two ago, right? Not to that extent, but I'm seeing a lot of that where clients are coming in for pre-approvals, reaching out. Also, a lot of co-borrowers trying to get that purchase price higher, right? With co-borrowers, parents, family members, to give everybody a larger purchase price because now they're again competing with multiple offers. So they want to be able to increase their offer and going for max offers, right? Speaking of offers, we were talking about this a bit about the open offers or open bidding, right?
Yeah, very interesting.
So multiple offers. So right now, in Canada, like if you've been through this or if you know somebody that's been through it, you make an offer on a property, there are multiple offers, but you don't know what any of the other offers are on the property, right? So let's talk a little bit about what this open bidding system is and what's happening with it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's another ruse. It's not really going to do anything. It's not going to fix anything. It's basically going to be an option for the seller and all parties involved to agree to expose the contents of the offers as they come in. So say you have 10 offers on a property right now, as a listing agent, I can't legally expose the contents of any of the offers to any of the agents involved. This plan here for open offers allows, if everybody agrees, well, I can tell all 10 parties each other's offers.
Yeah.
So is this going to, first of all, is the uptake going to be high here? No. If I'm a seller's agent and it's advantageous for me not to tell the other parties involved what the offers are, I'm going to recommend to my seller not to expose the data. Right. So that seller is going to probably take my advice. Number two, even if we did expose the contents of the offers, well, now everybody has a level playing field to say, hey, well, I'm at 650, he's at 670. Okay, we'll come to 672. Okay, well, we'll go to 674.
Right.
There's a possibility that it actually creates this.
It's still the bidding will still keep happening, I guess. It's just you'll know where you stand in the bid. That's kind of how it does give the buyer the transparency, but
what it would theoretically eliminate, there are times when, say that I'm the listing agent and we've got an offer for 720 and the next closest one is 690 and there's a pretty big gap there. It would theoretically help eliminate that situation.
Right.
But those situations aren't the problem. They're more like 1 or 2% of the problem rather than the structural problem, which is the problem is you have 10 people bidding on one house.
Yeah.
Because there's not enough other houses out there to absorb all the other buyers. Everybody's got to go bid on the same stuff. So again, they're Band-Aids. They are leak fixes, right? You're trying to plug holes, but then another one springs and another one springs and another one springs. If you really want to fix the problem, you get builders to build, incentivize them, give them discounts, waive building fees, waive development fees, offer incentives to build more units, whatever the case is, and also stop bringing in 2,000 people a day. Let the housing situation catch up.
Right.
Maybe even get a little bit ahead of it. Have a balanced immigration program with the housing market. If you actually want to fix it, that's the only way. Everything else is just essentially trying to buy votes and trying to convince the masses that you're doing something to fix the problem. And the sad thing is most people, because they don't think at a deep level, they don't understand economics, they don't understand supply and demand, it's not really their game. They might spend an hour a year thinking about it. Whereas other people, we spend our whole life thinking about it. Because they don't understand it, they'll actually look at those people and say, oh, wow, they're actually trying to do something. Oh, open bidding, that's going to fix the problem. They actually are going to think that.
Yeah, it's not going to fix the problem. I think it just it helps the buyer see kind of where they stand, right? I think, and you're right. Like, hopefully, people aren't thinking it's going to fix the problem.
They do, though. That's the thing.
It's not. Like, how?
It's not.
The
problem is 10 offers, not
correct.
Here's the thing, though. The
politicians, it's not knowing what the offers are.
It's that there's 10 offers.
That's the problem.
But the politicians, because they need a scapegoat, they can never say, you're right, we messed up the housing market and we're continuing to mess up. They'll never say that. What they'll say is, oh, the bidding wars and the realtors, not exposing the other offers, they're the problem. Or the greedy developers are the problem.
I knew it.
Whatever. They're going to villainize somebody.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to get people emotional and attacking the wrong people.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's the game. As long as you're aware of it, you can kind of take advantage of it even, right? If we're sitting here saying, hey, you might want to own some land. You might want to own properties where you can add units to them. You might want to own rentals in the future because we're just way out of whack here. There are ways to take advantage of it. A lot of people kind of get this, right? And they're doing anything they can to get into the real estate market, whether it's co-signing, co-borrowing, family member, friend. Let's get qualified together so we can actually get into the market. And then when the market, if it goes up 20% in the next 10 years, okay, well, you just, now you're sitting on a nice chunk of equity and you're in a pretty good financial position. And I don't like saying that. I don't think that's the way an economy should be built. I don't think that's the way the housing market should be. I don't agree with this, but if it's going to happen, you can bet what side of the fence I want to be on.
Yeah.
Right? So, anyways, to recap here, we're just in a wacky market. We're way out of balance, supply and demand. We don't know where rates are going. We don't know where inflation is going. We don't know if we're heading into a recession. I'm not trying to predict the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months. Don't know. Next 20 years, I'm pretty confident in saying prices are going to be slow and steady up and to the right until and unless we come into balance with supply and demand, which I don't ever see happening, unfortunately.
Yeah, and like I said, it's going to be interesting. So definitely curious to see what happens over the next 6 months, kind of with all the people coming in and the homes that we need to build. It's going to be a good precursor of what's going to happen next year.
No doubt. All right, so thanks for tuning in to the episode. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another update for you. And pretty sure any more trips coming up? Every week it seems like
no trips, but I almost forgot. I have to mention this. On June 9th, CIBC is hosting their 6th annual softball tournament. It's for a local charity. This is the 6th year we're doing it. We've raised approximately $50,000 already so far. And over the years, this year our goal is to raise another $10,000, and all the money stays local and it goes to the Fight Like Mason Foundation. So if you're interested in donating or playing in the softball tournament, please reach out to me. I know Scott's an amazing softball player. He's been telling me this whole week he can't wait to get out there. So just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. Great softball player. Okay, cool. So that's huge. I love the local charity angle there. Send me the link. I'd be happy to donate as well. So,
awesome.
All right, guys. Thanks. See you in a couple weeks.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's go.